So think about what it is that you want to achieve. Think about what you'll be doing, how you'll be thinking, what sort of things you'll be saying and what you'll be saying to yourself, how you'll feel when you've achieved what you want to achieve. So you want to give all of that a lot of thought. Really try and absorb yourself in the idea of having achieved your goal, having achieved what it is that you really want to gain from this experience. What will others notice? So how will others know that you've achieved what it is that you want to achieve? What will be the first kind of thing that they perhaps notice? Are there changes to your environment? Perhaps there are things that today you've got in your environment that when you achieve your goal, those aspects of your environment will be different. Maybe there are things added to your environment that perhaps don't exist currently. Think about how you'll ideally be responding to different types of situations in the future in line with that goal that you hope to achieve. And just check that what it is that you hope to achieve aligns with who you are, how you are, and who you want to be. Does it align with you as a being and with your values? And then, if necessary, make any adjustments. So make any changes to help it to align with who you want to be as a being and with your values and how you want to represent yourself. So that it's congruent. What you want is to make sure that the goal that you achieve is in line with who you are and who you want to be, is in line with your values. So make any changes, perhaps if you need to. And then again, just run through what will you be doing when you've achieved that? How will life be different? What will you do? What will you see? What will you hear? What will you feel? What kind of internal dialogue will you have? So run through all that again and just keep running through that a few times, just making any adjustments if you need to, because it's important that the goal that you strive to achieve is congruent with who you are. If it mismatches with who you are, so if somebody was trying to achieve a certain bit of success, but in doing so they were neglecting their family, then that will make it very difficult because the goal isn't in harmony with something that's an important value for you as a being. So you just want to make sure that your goal is in harmony with who you want to be and who you are as a person. And now what I want you to do is think about what situations you currently respond in an unhelpful way in. So what you're looking for is, what are those mid-game kind of real-world situations that you find yourself in where currently you end up responding in an unhelpful way, but you'd rather respond in a new, more helpful way of being. Think about what those triggers are. What do you see? What do you hear in that experience? What's happening in that environment? And now what we're going to do is we're going to start placing things into boxes. So we're going to have you imagine 4 boxes in your mind. So you'll have a box on the left, and then a box next to that, and then a box next to that one, and a box on the end, on the far right. And the process we're going to go through will have you go from focusing on that first box, and that first box is going to have what you've just thought about. It's going to have that trigger, that kind of the environmental situation that when it happens external from who you are, your short game response to that is currently an unhelpful short game response. So you have that environmental trigger in the first box, and there may be multiple triggers. And so all of that, you just have a representation of that in that first box. If there's one clear type of example that happens, or one clear aspect of a situation, then you can focus on that as being in the first box. So the idea is we're just creating a connection with these boxes to end up being able to break the old pattern, the old way of responding, before we replace it with your new desired way of responding. So in the second box, what I want you to do is imagine the absolute worst case scenario. So it doesn't have to be one that is highly likely to happen. So it's not the likeliest scenario, it's the worst case scenario. The worst case kind of outcome that could happen if you continue to respond in that old way that's triggered by box 1. So when box 1 happens, you respond currently in a specific kind of way, the way that you're trying to change. And there will be a worst case scenario of what could happen. So again, think about what you would see, what you would hear, what you would potentially feel, what your internal dialogue would be. Think about all the aspects of that worst case scenario. Is there an impact on others, for example, in that worst case scenario? So give that some thought about what the worst case scenario of responding in the unhelpful way to what's in box 1. And then in box 3, just imagine the word no, or some other way of representing that sense of, I do not want that, that will not happen, I do not accept that. That kind of sense of that strength, whatever it is for you, whatever language you use to represent that. So, for example, I worked with an alcoholic where for them, their response in box 3 was, I don't drink. So box 1 was the triggers, the things that, like seeing alcohol, seeing a reference to alcohol, etc., or having certain life events. That would all be in box 1. Box 2 would be the worst case scenario if they gave in and had that alcohol. Box 3 was them essentially dismissing, saying, that future isn't something that's ever going to happen in my life. I do not accept that as part of my future. So for them, it was, I don't drink. They were firm about that statement. That was the statement that worked for them. So you want something that represents that, some no, back to box 2, some kind of strong sense of what's in box 2, I do not accept. I will not have that as an outcome. I do not want that in my future. So you want whatever words represent that. So for me, it's normally just no. It's a very blunt, very firm negative. I am not having that as an outcome in my life. And then in box 4, the one over on the right, what you want is the best case scenario of not responding in the old way and instead choosing to respond in your new way. So you've said no to that old way of responding. And instead, you're going to be focused on having this outcome. And think about that best case outcome. So it's going to be along the lines of the goal that we set up at the very beginning. So you want that best case kind of, this is the sort of thoughts I'm going to have. These are the feelings I'm going to have. These are the behaviors I'm going to be doing. This is how I'm going to be talking to myself. This is what my internal dialogue is going to be. The sort of words I'm going to say to myself. This is how I'm going to say the internal dialogue to myself. This is what others are going to notice, that lets them know I've achieved this best case outcome. So what we're doing with this process is we're breaking down the old way of responding, the unhelpful way of responding. We're breaking down that old short game response to the mid-game kind of environment around you, to what's happening external from yourself, those sort of triggers, things that you see. So For example, if you wanted to exercise more, then perhaps when you see, oh, it's time for me to exercise, you currently end up perhaps coming up with excuses or thinking, oh, but I don't feel like it, or however you respond. And then there'll be a worst case scenario of continuing to respond in that way. So you say no to all of that, and you open yourself up to the possibility of having this positive future instead. And so we're trying to just break down and knock down that old way of responding while beginning to replace it with this new way of responding. And so to do this, we're going to go through these 4 boxes, but we're going to go through them quickly and then we're going to get faster. So you only have to have a sense of this. And I'm just going to end up reaching a point of saying box 1, 2, 3, and 4 so that we get through it even quicker. But what you want is box 1 is the trigger, is something happening in your life. Box 2 is the worst case outcome of continuing to respond in the old unhelpful way. Box 3 is your assertion, no, I'm not going to have that future. That's not part of my future at all. And then box 4 is the best case scenario of not responding in that old way, and so instead being able to respond in your new way. And we're going to go through this a number of times. And what we're going to do is go through box 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're going to have your eyes shut while you do this. And then I'm going to ask you to open your eyes after you've done box 4, and then close your eyes. And I'm going to tell you to close your eyes almost straight away. And then we'll do box 1, 2, 3, and 4 again. And we're going to do that about 5 or 6 times. And the idea is that this breaks that old way of responding while setting up a new way of responding. And then after the last time, your eyes will remain shut. And then we'll move in to the final stage of this process. So make sure that you're comfortable. Make sure you don't have to pay your attention to anything else. You can just pay your attention to this. Make sure that you won't be disturbed. And then allow your eyes to close. And just focus on box 1, on that kind of trigger, on the environment that happens that makes you suddenly start responding in a certain way. And then focus on box 2, that worst case scenario of having responded in an unhelpful way to box 1. And then focus on box 3, that no, that assertion that you don't accept box 2. You don't accept that as a part of your future reality. And then focus on box 4, that best case scenario, that best outcome of responding in a helpful way in line with your goal. And then open your eyes, then close your eyes. And then focus on box 1. And then on box 2. And then on box 3, saying no. And then on box 4. And then open your eyes and close your eyes. And then focus on box 1. And then on box 2. And then on box 3. And then on box 4. And then open your eyes and close your eyes. And then focus on box 1. And then focus on box 2. And then focus on box 3. And then focus on box 4. And then open your eyes, then close your eyes. Then focus on box 1. Focus on box 2. Focus on box 3, saying no, and then focusing on box 4. Then open your eyes and close your eyes. And then focusing on box 1. Focusing on box 2. Focusing on box 3. And focusing on box 4. Then open your eyes and then closing your eyes. And this time, allow yourself to imagine sitting down in the most comfortable of chairs. And as you imagine yourself sitting down in that incredibly comfortable chair, imagine a screen in front of you. And it's a giant blank screen at the moment. And imagine on that screen is forming one of those situations where this time you respond in a helpful way. And imagine yourself responding in that helpful way, responding in your desired way, carrying out what it is you want to achieve. Notice what you can see as you watch yourself achieving that on the screen. Notice what you can hear about yourself, and perhaps what you can hear in the environment. Noticing what behaviours you're doing. Perhaps noticing how others are interacting with you differently. Just really paying attention to how you know that you on that screen is responding how you want to respond. And as you go through this process, you can make any tweaks that you need to make it just right, just how you want it to be. Ensuring that this is congruent with who you are as a being, with your values. Making sure that it aligns with those values, with your being, making all those necessary changes, and just seeing that play out. Notice how that screen moves forward to another future point where you again are responding in that desired way. Noticing what you can see, what you can hear. What happens that lets you know that you're responding just as you wish in that situation, automatically, easily and effortlessly, always keeping this in mind. And then moving forward even further to another future situation. Just allowing one to come to mind on that screen, where again you respond in that desired way. Doing that automatically, easily, effortlessly. Noticing what you can see, hear. Noticing how others know that you're responding in that desired way. Perhaps noticing changes within yourself that lets you know you're making progress as these situations go on, responding in that desired way across a period of time. And as you continue to watch yourself automatically responding in that desired way from one situation to the next, just allow that screen to move on to another situation and then another, each time seeing yourself growing, developing, and getting closer to that overall goal that you're aiming for. All the way off to a point way off in the future, long after you've already passed your desired goal, and looking back on that and seeing that you, what you look like, how you know that you on that screen has achieved that desired goal, has been living having achieved that desired goal for some time. What do you see? What do you hear? What do others perhaps notice? Is there an impact on others because you have achieved that goal? How has life been for that you on the screen, having achieved the goal? Just take some time to absorb yourself in all the ideas around that, where you are automatically, instinctively responding, easily and effortlessly in that desired way, and have now been for some time. And then have a sense of the screen going blank again. And then as an image appears on the screen, it starts at the beginning again, only this time you stand up out of that chair, you walk to the screen and you step into that screen, you step into the you in that screen. And standing in the you in the screen, you go through these situations again. So go through that first situation. Notice what you can see, what you can hear, but this time you can notice what you can feel, how things feel as you go through this situation. What emotions do you have as you respond in the desired way? What's your internal dialogue? How do you talk to yourself? How do you express that internal dialogue? What kinds of words do you use? What do you notice about others around you, perhaps? And just experience this you responding in this desired way. And you can discover that if you find yourself in a trigger situation, in one of these kind of situations, you automatically and instinctively respond in this desired way. Easily, effortlessly, instinctively, and you can always keep that in mind. As you progress and notice the movie changing and find yourself in that second situation, and again going through that, seeing what you will see, hearing what you will hear, feeling what you will feel, doing what you'll be doing, having the internal dialogue that you'll have, going through that situation in the desired way. So easily, so effortlessly. And then moving through that to a third situation. Again, experiencing what it's like to respond in a desired way. And you're working your way through all these situations, responding in this new way. All the way to that time in the future where you look back, having long achieved what it is you aim to achieve. And you're looking back at the progress you've made. And as you look back, having responded in the desired way now for some time, notice what you see, what you hear, how you feel. Perhaps any changes within you as a being. What internal dialogue you have, what sort of things you say to yourself and how you say those things. Perhaps the impact on others. Just going through all of that, but now from being in it and experiencing it, living it, as if you have achieved that now. Seeing what you will see, hearing what you will hear, feeling what you will feel, having the internal dialogue that you'll have, doing the behaviours that you will do. Always aware that you so easily and instinctively, anytime you're in one of those trigger situations, respond in the desired way, automatically, effortlessly. And just take a moment to notice what you can that lets you know that you have been successful and that you have been successful for a long period of time, behaving in this new desired way. And then begin to relax yourself a little more as you step out of that you in that screen and head back over to that comfortable chair. Relax yourself back down into the chair. Notice how you can relax deeper and even more comfortably. And while you relax even more comfortably, making all the necessary changes here and now, knowing that you can always come back to this and do some further work in the future following this process. allowing it to help you deeper and more fully with every use. You can find yourself almost drifting into a bit of a reverie in that chair, your mind wandering perhaps as you relax. And I'd like to just have you say to yourself 3 times, if I find myself in a trigger situation, then I'll automatically respond in my desired way. If I find myself in a trigger situation, then I'll automatically respond in the desired way. If I find myself in a trigger situation, then I'll automatically respond in the desired way. That's it. And then, when you've finished doing this inner work, and you can take some time to relax further first and allow the mind to just continue to update your neurology with the changes that you're making here. And then once you know you've done the inner work you're going to do here today, you can find yourself drifting peacefully and comfortably asleep, or allow yourself to awaken, feeling refreshed and revitalized in your own time, knowing that you can use this process frequently as required,